and send it to you as well. And also, let me share my screen. So the only way I can really share and you be able to see all the things that are going on is if I share my entire screen. And when I do that, obviously you guys are going to be able to see that Google Meet um, kind of window as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to minimize that. And then I'm going to make my Blackboard screen kind of a little bit larger and font size so that you guys can see. But that means I can't see the Google Meet screen. Okay. So if you have questions, you should definitely just stop and chime in audio wise. I won't be able to see the chat window is what I'm trying to say. So stop at any time. This is really kind of informal. So ask questions throughout, and we'll get that worked out for you. Okay. So this is a sandbox that I happen to have for one of my chemistry courses. So it's not a course that has students in it. And also keep in mind that I haven't changed anything or taught this course online since summer of not this year, but last year. So keep in mind that the dates and all this stuff will be kind of old. But Ally has been turned on, and where you can see just really immediately something a little different is this little icon right here. Every single item that you post that is a content item, where you have links or videos or documents, any of those things, you're going to have this little icon next to the kind of title area. And if you hover your cursor over that icon, alternative formats window should pop up. And if you click it, what happens is a new window pops up and shows that you could actually download, and your students as well, that content that you posted for those students in a variety of different ways. The reason why we want this to be a prevalent used item is because we have learners that love to read or love to hear or may have some diverse type of learning disability that they need maybe this content in a particular format to suit their needs. So that particular content, that welcome statement that I had in the beginning of my class, you could actually download that as an EPUB where I could actually read this on my iPad or a Kindle, a Nook, if anybody still has any of those. Someone that may need this in Braille. So they would have a person that would be there to help support them. They would download that and they would insert that into their Braille reading device. We can download this as an MP3, and I can literally listen to it on my phone or my iPod. Not that I use my iPod anymore. A Beeline reader is really neat. It can download that content and change the colors and backgrounds of it, so it makes it easier for people to read. Those that may have dyslexia, or those that maybe have tired eyes and it's hard for them to read on a screen often. That's a Beeline reader. And also you can download this in another language. Ally will download content in up to 50 different languages for the learner themselves. So that's kind of the idea behind Ally, is that it allows you as this student, the learner, to download your content that your instructor has posted for you in a variety of different ways. So what does it look like for you, and how do you make things accessible for the students meeting kind of those federal guidelines? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you to one of my units where I have most of my content posted. And so I have a unit has a basic overview. I tell the students kind of, what is this unit going to be about? I tell them essentially about how much time it's going to take them to go through this unit for the week. That amount of time is correlative to the contact hours for this particular class. It's a 4-credit hour, but we have 6 contact hours a week. I even give them all of their learning objectives and what the things that I'm going to have them do that during that unit, how they correlate to those learning objectives. All of this content the students could download in a variety of formats as well. But anything that I post other than text. Now, this text, Ally not yet. Sometime within the next 2 months, they should be able to, they're gonna update this feature. All of this text I have written here, Ally doesn't really check yet. Eventually they will, and they're gonna look at things like, do you have things like headers and, stuff like that. But I have posted this image here, and what you'll see as an instructor is you're gonna see these new kind of dials, if you will. They are kind of speedometers, and you will see that they're color coded. Here's one that's red. Here's some that are kind of orange color. I happen to have one down here that's green color, and they do correlate with how accessible that content would be. And so I posted a bunch of stuff for you guys to see. I have done nothing to them to make them accessible, just so you can see the process of how you would go through and make that accessible. Now, again, you as a faculty member see this, the students do not. So they have zero clue if you're how accessible your content is, unless how many of you in your class have, say, at the beginning of a class, especially if you have a face-to-face one, or if you kind of record a welcome video and you're recording your screen of your Blackboard course, want your students are going to see your version of your Blackboard course. Well, if you show them your version, they're going to see it. So if you ever do that, think about that. And maybe you might want to enter the student preview mode and then do your recording where they can see the alternative formats icon, but they cannot see anything else. So if you go back to Unit 1, you'll notice that they don't see that little dial. Okay, so just keep that in mind. It'll be there if you show them your version. Okay, so how do you look and determine what it is that Ally has said has made this thing accessible or not accessible? Well, I'm going to hover my mouse over the dial, and what you'll see is it'll say my accessibility score is low. Click to improve. So I'm going to click that dial, and it's going to bring up the image, and it's going to tell me, hey, this is the name of the image. It's about 25% accessible, meaning that the image, what's wrong with it? The image is missing a description. And there's really going to be a couple of things down here that will help guide you as to why something is happening. So what does it mean that an image is missing a description? If you click that, and it'll kind of give you an idea of, like, you need to have some alternative text or alt text that describes the image itself. It should theoretically be a description that conveys meaning to the image. Now, this image is just decorative. There is really no meaning to this particular image. So if it doesn't have meaning, then I would just say decorative image, something like that. So I can kind of go through another page here if why this is important of me putting this here. If you happen to have visually impaired students and they're using the screen reader, especially now that we have the Read Speak, which is this little plus button or the play button down here built into Blackboard, it will read everything on that page. So if I didn't put a alt text there, that the person with visually impaired would never know that I had an image because I had no alt text. So I can come out of the, what does that mean? And then I can come in directly in images, and I can add a description. So I might say something like decorative image. And let me spell that right. And then I click add, and Ally immediately adds the description for me back in Blackboard. Hey, it's saying my my now accessibility score for the image is 100. Great, I'm done. I'm closed, and now that dial has gone from red to green. That image is perfectly accessible. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So that's how you would work with an image. Now, I've had a lot of questions about images, and which ones need descriptions and which ones need something like what I have here. Keep in mind that Ally only checks images that are built or added into content items or documents in which you have posted in a content item. It is not going to check images within exams. So, for instance, there are a couple of faculty members in, say, like the sonography program, where they have like x rays and ultrasound pictures and all of that kind of stuff. And they do a lot of those in their exams. Obviously, the student themselves are going to need to be able to take that image and interpret it to get an answer that's indicative to what the faculty member is wanting them to be able to do. And if you have a description of, say, what that is and what the, kind of, it might give an answer away. So does that mean you put alt text for your images in your exams? Not if it's something that conveys an answer. Does that make sense? So Ally does not even check images within exams. That doesn't mean you can't add alt text to an image in exam, but what that description could be needs to be something that is a more is appropriate for your course. Does that make sense? Um, if you have an image somewhere else, kind of like here, or if I have an image, say, in a PowerPoint, which actually I do in my lecture notes. I'll show you here in just a second. I have some images. That's why this particular document has a low score, and how to add alt text to those, because those images do convey meaning. And not only that, they are things that the students are supposed to be studying and getting information from. And so those I would probably need to put good descriptions for. Does that make sense to everybody? Is there anyone in here that happens to have images, like a lot of images? Like Leanne Alexander, obviously she teaches art appreciation and drawing and a lot of art classes. She's got a lot of images. So
I have a lot of like maps and stuff in my
yeah,
history class. Or
yeah. And so for you, like what would you think you would do for adding alt text for some of those?
Well, I would probably just describe the map and what I want them to know about, the
Right,
characteristics of it or whatever,
exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
how long can that alt text be?
Um, I don't know the answer to that. I haven't heard that there is a limit.
Okay.
But that's a
Well,
good question.
I'm
I
sure
don't
I'll
know.
find out if there is.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, let me know if you do find out before I do. Okay. Um,
What about if like my excuse me, my PowerPoints, the video ones, I have the links to them on YouTube. So do I have
so
to go back
so you
and
have
describe?
video
Well, I
of
have
your
both.
PowerPoint of you talking on your PowerPoint?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do too. I do mine like that as well.
Yeah, yeah. I in that case, do you also post your PowerPoint as a document as well?
I do.
You
Yes.
do?
I don't, but I
Okay.
but I could. I mean, it's just something I choose
Yeah.
not to do because I prefer them watch the video and take notes
Right, right.
or screenshots or
Absolutely.
whatever they want.
Um, I I I don't do a PowerPoint in this particular class, Paula, but what I would do is and I want everyone to understand that this is a tool that helps you create accessible content. And it is also something that doesn't mean we're going to use it for, a couple months and then you've got to get everything to 100%. That is unrealistic. Okay. It is just 100% unrealistic. So, if you happen to have content like your PowerPoint, you recorded a video lecture, you're talking about that content, an image, if you
Right.
will, within that content in your video. And I'm assuming your video has like a closed captions or transcript with it. Yes.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So in that case, your PowerPoint, the the term that I'm looking for is the need to update alt text for those images is not as important because you have that in an alternative format already. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So if you have that video and you're posting that PowerPoint as a supplement to that,
Mhm.
then I would personally move on to something else that's more
Okay,
important. And then if I have time, I'd come back to that. Does that make sense?
yeah,
Okay. Where it becomes maybe more of an issue in that case is if you're only posting a PowerPoint. You're not posting you lecturing on it in a video or audio way. Does that make sense? And
mhm,
in that case, the only way, say, a student that needs the screen reader to look at your, then they're not getting that same level of description as someone, say, that doesn't need the screen reader. And so, in that particular case, that might make it more of a higher priority than not. And okay.
What do you do about, like, homework assignments would be checked, correct?
Well, it depends on what kind of assignment we're talking about. So if we're talking about like a quiz or something, that the Blackboard or Ally considers that just the same as an exam. And so they won't check that. It doesn't, in full disclosure, Blackboard or Ally doesn't check exams. Okay, none of the content in
Mhm,
exams. It does not check videos. So obviously, we know that accessibility issues with videos are one, they need to have, closed caption. And
mhm,
that closed caption has to have a certain degree of accuracy, right?
mhm.
Ally can't check that, at least not yet, right? Um, and the other thing that Ally cannot check is Excel documents. It cannot check those. Mainly because of the nature of how Excel works. That would be just entirely too difficult to do. So it specifically focuses on images, PDF documents, PowerPoint documents, Word documents, those kinds of items that you're attaching to your course. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because 'cause I'm just concerned, I often have worksheets or homework, but, like, in microbiology, they have to look at, say, a picture, and they
Mm-hmm.
have to be able to interpret the morphology and the color, so I can't say, "There's little purple dots." That gives
I
them.
wouldn't I wouldn't say that, and in fact, I would say something like, something that's so general that doesn't give away any of those answers, but maybe ties it to that question. You may be like, "This is question 1 image." I mean, seriously, if you just put Ally will check that you have alt text, not evaluate the content of the alt text, if you will.
So if we're doing that, how does that help a student, say, who's visually impaired?
On that particular item, if you're having them do if it's for, like, say, an exam or something, right? That there are limitations in which you can do that, for the alt text, if that makes sense.
Okay,
Um, and in that case, we may have to sit and think about what kind of alt text you provide for someone that's visually impaired.
okay.
And maybe it is, you make a description of the particular slide or something that you're looking at that doesn't give the answer away, but gives contextual clues instead. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Okay. So let's go to a couple of other types of documents just so you can see what those look like. So I have for the very first thing that I like my students to do before they watch any video lectures is I like them to look over and read the chapter from our textbook, which is our OpenStax. We use an OpenStax OER textbook, and I actually upload the single chapter itself. And so my accessibility score says it's a medium, which is a little surprising considering that comes from OpenStax themselves. And so let me check and see why. Oh, it says this PDF contains some images that are missing a description. And it pulls up the PDF and it actually says, hey, here is this item right here. And it actually tells me there's 1 out of 51. But what Ally hasn't really realized is there is a figure legend here. So I go, actually, so I'm gonna, in my mind, I'm making an assertion that actually this does have alt text. It's just not built in the way that alt text is traditionally added to an image. And so for me, I go, actually, I'm fine with that. Okay. There's a limitation kind of as to how the software programs can detect that. But it turns out that there's actually a bunch more issues with this document. So you didn't see that with the images item that I did earlier, but with this PDF, I click on all images and it turns out, okay, so my images, misdescriptions, all right. This PDF doesn't have a title, which means when I look at this little guy in this chapter 1 right here, is not actually in the kind of backdrops of the PDF styled as a title. So when you use a screen reader for it, the screen reader just kind of moseys on and doesn't realize and pattern things in a way that they read them so that the listener understands that that's the title of the document. The other thing is I happen to have some text with insufficient contrast, and if I click it, it'll actually take me to that. And what it's looking at is it turns out that I have like a web page that OpenStax puts on the bottom of each of these pages. So I'm not going to change that. So I'm going to just skip over that and just go, okay, never mind. I'm not going to worry about that. The other thing as the PDF doesn't have a language. A lot of times in the backdrops of PDFs, you can decide what language or identify the language of that document. There isn't any guidance yet on how to fix that, but it should be here within the next month or two as well. So as soon as they have that in here. So any issue in here that you look at and you go, that's okay. I'm gonna pass that on. Then you go, all right, it does kind of meet the requirements. Ally just can't tell that just for right now. I'm gonna leave it as is and go on and move to the next document. What about my classification of matter study guide? Well, what kind of document is this? It's a Word doc. What says this guy doesn't have headings. So I have 0 styled headings in this document. So what can I do to fix that? Well, I'm going to go to the instructions that Ally gives me, and it will actually give you instructions based on the type of program you use to make it. Well, I used Microsoft Office, so I'm going to choose that, and it's going to tell me step by step how to fix this document. All right. So all right, well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to follow these steps. Do I have the original document? Yeah, I do. I can also download it right here if I want to. So I may just do that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to open that document. It's going to open up in Word. And I think you guys should be able to see this. I may actually move this. I think my computer is moving a little slow this morning. And that way we can still see our instructions. And it's going to say, select the text that should become a heading. Well, a heading is something that gives you like a separation of sections within a document. States of matter should be a heading. So I'm going to select it. And it's going to say, select the home tab. I'm actually in the home tab. And then in the styles group, click the appropriate heading level. Well, this is the styles icon. So I'm going to click style and I'm going to just call this heading 1. So when I call it heading 1, it's going to make it a little bit larger in size of font and change that color. You can actually tell Word to make it fit a particular font, a font size, and a font color if you don't like the default font sizes and colors and whatnot for heading styles. And then what I would do is I would go through and do all of these, and I would call all of these heading 1. All right.
Andrea?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so like my notes are broken down into some form of either Roman numerals or ABC or whatever, will I have to go into every Roman numeral and make it a heading? Because that's a lot.
No, I would do only like your major ones.
Okay.
Only the majors. Like if I have another document in here I'm going to show you just in a second, and I have the Roman numeral thing too as
Okay.
well, and I'll show you what I would do with that one.
Thank you.
So I go in here and I happen to have like 5 of these, and so I'm going to go and just make headings for all of these. I really hate the blue and the large font and the font color. I think it's like Cambria. I hate that. So I would probably go in and change that on my own anyway, but I'm not going to do that today. So, okay. So I've got that document. I've edited, I put my headings in it. And so it says repeat, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to click the next button, and it's going to say, it'll tell you if you want to modify what those look like, by the way. It'll even show you those steps. I'm going to skip that for right now. What I want to do now is uploaded my edited version. So right here, I downloaded it. I did my changes. I saved it. So now what I want to do is I'm going to take and drag and drop this document back into it. And what it's going to do is it's going to take that original document. We're going to replace it with my edited version that has headings. Oh, it does have headings. I wonder why it's saying it does not. It might be the fact that those are in text boxes. And so let me try again and see if I can update that. If I take this guy out of a text box. It's a little weird that I have those in text boxes anyway. Okay, so let's say that I have that. Let's save that. And now upload this document. Oh, it didn't do it. Perfect. So now it was the fact that I had it in a text box. It wasn't recognizing the fact that the heading thing was there. So now I do, and I only did that with one. So as long as you have one heading, it actually, Ally goes, hey, you do have one. It's not going to count how many you have. It's just going to say you have one. And then, hey, you're good. It's been uploaded and replaced. And you guys, you will only notice that nothing changes about what, the way you had it looking in Blackboard. For your students, the only thing that will change for you now is your accessibility score. Does that make sense? So let me show you for lecture notes, Alicia, like you have. I have my lecture notes are also written in, Roman numeral style, as you can see here. And so what I would do is I can actually go through and change those to say headings, right? So right here, the additional issue here is that I don't have headings. Well, let me download my original document. Let me go through the same steps, right? How to add headings. I think it hasn't downloaded. Let's see if it'll download. Aha, there we go. So here is my original document. I use Microsoft Office, and I will go through and say for me, I only have, say, 6 sections within this whole document, Alicia. I've got sub things too as well. I'm not going to do those if I don't want to. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to make this guy, style it to heading 1. Now remember, I have a default setting for font size, font color that I'll probably go back and change to what I like it to look like. So you can do that. So I'd probably just do 1.1, 1.2, style that as heading 1. 1.3, style that as heading 1, and so forth and so on.
And once you do this in one class, if you just copy your course,
it carries over.
Oh, thank gosh.
Yes, 100 stinking %. That was like a absolute bonus.
Okay, I won't panic then.
Well, that just made our day.
Yeah, 100%, right? 100%. So I would go through and do this. Now, could I get super fancy with this, Alicia, and go, okay, well, is this a subheading and call this heading 2? I could do that, but am I going to do that right now? Is it absolutely vital and necessary at this moment? Maybe not. It might be something later on in a semester I might do later. Okay. Because it's embedded in your Blackboard course, you can kind of work on it as you have time to do it, if that makes sense. So I'm going to go ahead and save this as is. And now I can go in here and go click next, go through all the instructions, and then just drag and drop this bad boy. And now that original gets replaced with my now styled heading version. Why did it do that again? It should not do that. That is so weird. It did not do that last time. I don't know if maybe I need to give this guy a title. Give him the title. Oh, maybe it's the whole thing. Did I highlight the whole thing and style it 1? I did not. Do you notice how I messed that up? I didn't style this, my 1.1 and 1.2 stuff. That's a lesson learned. So let me go through, and I'll just do a few of those. I won't do all of those. So let me save that. And now drag and drop this guy in there. And it should say, hey, wonderful. You now have those styled headings. The only thing now are each of my images are missing descriptions. And this is that point where when you look at that document, see, it'll probably, let me pull that guy up. See, now it is moved from, it was red, now it's yellow. Could we possibly increase it to be green? Well, this is where we go back and look at it again, and it has my image descriptions. How do I add those image descriptions? Well, let me look. In my original document, there are 3 images in the document that are missing a description. And how do you add them? So if I open that document one more time, here is my image. It says in the picture format panel, click the layout and properties. I might need to make there you go, a little larger. Yeah, open the alt text icon, and then I can just type my description. And this is a image of the steps of the scientific method. And I might even, if I wanted to get super detailed in my description, talk about the steps, but that might be what I want my description to be. And that's it. So you as the content person make a decision as to what's most appropriate for that image. And so now that I've added that, I just click save, and I would go through and do that for each of my images. And this one, click my alt text. I might say this is a diagram of matter, mixtures, and substances, or something like that. Okay. And then my last one is, this is a table of conversion factors. Oops, sorry. Do an alt text, and this would be a table of conversion factors. Now, this is an actual image that's of a table that has numbers in it that are not readable. So technically using this image is not a really great idea, because if students want to read that content within that image, I might need to have recreated that in an actual table, if that makes sense. So I knowing that is something that I need to do later on, I'm just going to leave it as is, keep my alt text for now, click save. And now if I come back in here and I want to upload this document, it's going to hopefully take alt text. And now it's saying, hey, I have a perfect score for that particular document. Does that make sense for everybody? And so you can see that it has a little green score. And in fact, it's even better than this one. This one's like a light green, and this is a dark green. So it's perfect versus high. Okay. So those are how you kind of work with Word documents. The last document that I wanted to show you is another type of PDF. So we looked at this PDF here with my chapter from my textbook, but I happened to post another PDF right here that's called my Chapter 1 class notes. I just posted this for this particular training. This isn't something I normally post in this class. Mainly because this is the way I used to take notes or deliver class in a face-to-face class. And how many of you do this? I used to use an Elmo, and I had a piece of like printer paper, and I wrote my notes and it projected to the projector. And the reason why I did that is so that we would have a record of notes. I would go in and scan them in the copy machine, and it scanned them into a PDF format, and I would post them on Blackboard in case a student, missed class, they would have the notes for that day. And it's called a scanned PDF. So if we click that, it's going to say, hey, not only is this terrible, it's going to say, hey, you have a 0 accessibility score, mainly because this is a scanned PDF, and everything on this PDF is considered an image and is unreadable, if that makes sense. So none of it's readable. Now, I wanted you to see this, not necessarily that if this is a way you do kind of your class and teach your class in a face-to-face class, does that mean that you have to take that document that's a scanned document and make it accessible as a readable PDF? I would say no. I just want you to know that there are some faculty that are going to do that. And I just want to know you're going to have a 0 score because of the kind of PDF it is. However, if you teach an only online class and the only way you're providing content to a student is in a scanned PDF, that is something that might be higher priority that you need to address, is start working on a document that can then replace this. Now, when you look at the instructions as to how to fix this, it's going to say, hey, can you get hold of original document or a text-based version? And if you don't have one, it's going to say your only option is, well, can you find it in the library or something like that? It's kind of a weird kind of thing that Ally was, trying to look at and give, information on. Essentially, they're going to say, obviously no. Well, it's going to say that, well, you're kind of going to have to type it up, is essentially what you're saying. And so at that point, Ally kind of this limitations on how it can help you for that kind of document, if that makes sense. Is anybody actually post scanned PDFs in their classes? Nobody?
Yes, I do.
Are they scanned or are they readable?
Oh, they're readable.
They're readable? Okay. If they're readable, they won't be considered scanned as that they're just an image. But if you can actually select text, like for this, I can't select anything. I'm actually trying to highlight stuff I can't.
Oh, you mean like highlight them?
Yeah. So if you do have a scanned PDF and you're teaching an online or hybrid course, that probably needs to be first priority for you, of trying to figure out a way to get that content a little bit more accessible, at least to the point where it is readable, if you will. So I can't really do much about this document right now. And so I'm just going to have to leave it here. I might even indicate maybe in a parentheses next to it to say that is scanned PDF not accessible or something like that, if it's something that I actually gave in my online class. Although I traditionally don't. It's just here for you guys. I happen to have another type of PDF where I give practice problems in class for one of my classes. And we write on them, and I write on them on my iPad, so it's partially readable and partially not. And so I'm going to show you the key of that document. And if you'll notice, all of the actual text you see that I have typed is selectable, so it's readable. The answer, however, is not. The answer is actually an image. And so that part is a little funky. And Blackboard isn't going to, or Ally won't recognize necessarily that part. It's going to say, hey, it is readable. That's great. But a new kind of concept of PDFs, if they're readable, is they also need styled headings, kind of like Word documents do, but they don't call them that. They call them tags. And so for you guys, in order to create a tagged PDF, you know, obviously you need the document, which you should theoretically have, but you also need a variety of types of software depending on where you got that document from. If it was originally from a Word document or a PowerPoint, something like that, very easy to just style it first and then export it as a PDF, and those tags live with it. But I don't have that here. I've only have this in PDF format. I don't have a Word. I don't have a PowerPoint of it. And so the only other software available is Adobe Acrobat. And as we know, here on AC's campus, you guys don't have that software. I'm working with the IT department, and we should be getting that by January for every faculty member. Hopefully it will be earlier, but at least by the latest January. And so you'll be able to create a tagged PDF. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say no to this, as I don't have an editable version of the file. And it's going to say, hey, can you find it in the library? And it's going to go through all this, you know, rigmarole of, you know, how you could probably go and browse for help. This will take you to Blackboard's Ally help thing. And you could look at, there's some videos on how to create a tagged PDF. But what I thought I would do for you is just show you right at this moment. And we can download this, and I'll open it in Acrobat for you. Let's see. We'll hop back. Why won't it download? The internet is taking a while this morning. Let me hop back and just download it this way. So if I click on it and download, yes. All right. So let's go to this bad boy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open this PDF, and I'm going to open it in Adobe Acrobat, and I'm going to show you how to make it a tagged PDF. It's pretty easy. If we go to our view and we look at show hide, and then do navigation panes and tags. So we'll click that tag, and it says no tags available. Up here, I can say add tags to the document. It adds those tags, and Adobe does this for me. And give it just a second. Now it has done so. It can actually tag everything for me. I go ahead and save this document. And when it's saved, I can pull this document into here, and it will upload, and hopefully those tags Ally will recognize, and that score should go up from 5 to another percentage. At this point, it's going to go, hey, you know you have those images in here. I'm just not going to be able to fix those, and so I just won't. There's a couple of other things I could probably do. I'm not going to worry about right now, but at least I have some tags, and it's for the most part readable. This is something I would use in a face-to-face class anyway, so I'm not super worried about it in an online format. But at least you have the idea of how to do that. And now that accessibility score has gone up. Is anybody have any questions about how you would use Ally at that point?
I tried to turn it on for my course, but it says that it's not available. Is that because it becomes available after the training?
Yeah, yeah. Right now I have to go in by hand to each one of your courses and turn it on individually. And so as soon as we're done today, I will go in and I'll start working on all of y'all's courses. I'll tell you that I think there were like 25 people in last Friday's, and it took me until Tuesday to actually add everybody's course into where Ally is turned on. So it is a little time consuming to go in and click.
Can you?
I do want to make sure that I find all of them as well. I will do so also in your sandboxes. So essentially, it'll look like all of your courses are turned on with Ally. Kevin, did you have a question?
That was my question. Wouldn't it be just easier to do all the sandboxes and then once they transfer over, or do you have to do it?
Well, for you guys, from your perspective, it's fine to just turn it on in your sandboxes. But what we really want is for the students to have access to these alternative formats, if you will.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that's why I want to go ahead and turn it on in your live courses for this fall. That way the students will have access to this as soon as they can.
Okay.
Now, guys, if you never even touch the dials, your accessibility score and change anything, are your students going to know? No. Okay. They're still going to be able to download alternative formats in the state that any of your content happens to be in. Does that make sense? So you're fine. What I want you guys to do is, as you can, work on your scores. Just try to improve. I want you guys to, think of the mantra: progress, not perfection. There is, in some cases, no way I'm going to get a perfect score for all of the content in my course, right? And so it's unrealistic for us to expect you to have 100% accessibility score. All right. This is progress, not perfection. Every semester, if you guys just wouldn't mind, work on 1 or 2 documents, get those things done, and then go with God. Go with your, do some other things that have higher priority with your course. Does that make sense? Okay. What I do want to show you, so we have like 11 minutes, and I don't want to keep you one second past 10 o'clock, is to show you that there is another way that you can get to your content other than having to go through each section within your course. And there's actually also an additional piece of information that might be beneficial to you. And this is your overall courses accessibility rating. Once I turn Ally on, what will happen is you'll get another kind of tab in your course under course tools, and it's called the accessibility report. So if you click that in your course, what is going to come up is it's going to say, hey, these are how many documents you have in your course. I have 130. Here are the breakdown of the types of courses, or types of documents. If you wanted to access any of those documents in this location, then do it there, and it will change them inside your course at wherever they're posted in the course content location. So it breaks things down not only by type of document, but by, hey, these 42 things are the easiest things to fix. Why don't you start on those? So if I click start, it would say, hey, here's all these things that don't have alt text. And that's probably the easiest things to fix. Let's click on this one thing. This is what it is. I have zero idea I know what this is. I was showing the students where to find their textbook on the bookstore website. It doesn't have alt text, so I could add bookstore website, where to find your textbook, and add it. Done. We've now got an accessibility score. I guess it decided it wasn't 100, made it 94. I'm done. go forth. And now I've improved that score. Does that make sense? And I can just go down the line here. Go back to the overview. You can fix some low scoring content. So these are probably things like Word documents or PDFs and those kinds of things. I could do those here. Or I could just look through a list of types of reasons. These are all the documents that don't have headings, all the documents that are untagged. And then I can just look at those and just work on that one type of issue rather than type of document, if you will. And so this is just an overall overview, and it actually even gives you an accessibility score for your course. And I am at, as an average, a 68% for my Chemistry 1411 course. This is actually better than my Chemistry 1412, which was at, I think, 58. Now, are those fantastic scores? Maybe not. But I might, for this semester, go and see if I can I make it a 70? I might work on trying to do that. And so keep in mind progress, not perfection. And just try to increase your score every time you work on your course. Okay.
And once you turn it on for us, it will and once you turn it on, Ally, it'll automatically enable it. We don't have to go in and click enable Ally.
It will automatically do everything for you, turn it all on, give you that accessibility report tab.
Okay, so the dials will
give
pop
all
up
the
and all that.
students access to alternative formats. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, I was just making sure I didn't have to click some other button.
No. And what I'll do as well, as soon as I get your courses turned on, and keep in mind, guys, I look at the AC portal to see everything you're teaching, and I look in Blackboard and see all your courses, and I try to make sure that I'm turning on the right courses. And I look at all your sandboxes as well and turn them on as well. Okay. So I'll send you an email saying, hey, I've turned on all your courses. I'll even send you a certificate of completion of training for today as well. That you want to record this as professional development too in the portal for you, because this is definitely something that's beneficial to you. And then what I would like for you guys to do is go check your courses and make sure that I didn't miss one. Because it's, it can get a little tedious just clicking enable. And so it won't, Ally, when on my end of turning it on, will only let me search for courses, not instructor. So it's not like I can put Alicia, your name in, and then say turn on all courses for Alicia. It won't let me do that. Unfortunately.
I know you're gonna do the courses we currently teach, but are you gonna go in and do the second 8-week courses that aren't active? Okay, good.
Yeah, all the fall courses. And if you have a winter course, I'll do that as well. I don't know that many people have those though. For spring though, I won't go through and do this again and go through, because I would technically have to go in by hand to every person and turn on and all their spring courses. I won't do that. I'll just flip the switch where it says all courses, no matter who they are, have Ally in them. And so that's kind of what we want you guys to go through a little bit of a training first before we do it, just so you have an idea of what you're seeing, because on your side, from your perspective, right, you're looking in this course and you're seeing these little dials. This makes it a little bit more like, ooh, what is that? So I didn't want to turn this on and not tell you what you're looking at or how to use it. Now, also, I will send all of you, because the students are going to get this new icon, right? They're going to have this alternative formats icon. They need to know what that is and how it can be beneficial to them. So I will send you all a group correspondence that I want you to send your students as well. Whatever method you use for communication with your students, whether that's email, Blackboard announcements, Blackboard messages, whatever you use, send that communication to them so that they know, hey, we've got this new cool feature. It does this for me. And they can start using it and know what it is when it gets turned on. Okay. All right. I think that's all I have for you guys, unless you guys have any more questions. at all. No, you're a pretty quiet bunch. It's pretty early on a Friday morning, huh?
Yeah. Well, thank you. I mean, this is very helpful. I mean, I think it's going to be very useful for the students.
Yeah, I can't tell you how excited we are to have this for the students to be able to use. So we've actually been able to get a couple of things that are going to really help our especially online students with what we call diverse learners. And it doesn't have to be someone that needs an accommodation. It just may be someone that, I really want to be able to listen to this chapter on an audiobook. That's what I would rather do. Because I have gotten to the point where I read books like novels for fun, but I almost always do it on Audible. So I want to read an audiobook. So can I do that with my chapter 1 now? You bet. I can download this guy as an audio version and I can listen to it. And so we're now able to provide content to students for whatever modality they prefer to learn at, whether that's reading or listening, maybe even, if we have learners, we know we have a lot of learners that English may not be their first language. We can translate that for them into the language that is their preferred reading language. We're here to help them be successful. And if we give them multiple options, that's doing nothing but support them and guide them to be that, head towards that direction. So I'm super excited about it. And I hope you guys are excited about it too, at least for the student side, maybe not for your changing creating accessible content. But I do want you guys to understand this is progress, not perfection. I do not want you or expect you to go in next week and go through all of your content and make it accessible. That's unrealistic. Okay. So just, during a semester, pick a couple of documents and work on those. And then that's progress, right? That is progress. And so this is going to be, something we'll utilize for the rest of the time that, you're teaching, because we'll have this tool available for you in Blackboard. Okay. All right. Well, that's all I've got. I'm letting you go less than a minute before 10. So I appreciate all of you. I'm going to stop sharing and pop this up. Does anybody have any other questions before I let you go?
None here. Thank you, Andrea.
No.
Yeah, no problem. Kirk, you got something?
I got nothing.
You got nothing?
No.
Okay.
Lots of grading to do other than that. No.
Yeah. I'm feeling you.
Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye. Y'all have a good
Thank
weekend.
you. Thank you.
So, Andrea, some of my classes have already been switched over.
Oh, hey, hold on one second, Paula. Let me
Yeah.
stop the recording.